Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Let's Talk About podcast. And today we are doing an episode on the Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe. I think what I'm going to do is for a couple of weeks, I'm going to do a couple of true crime episodes. So it might be serial killers, it might be just true crime in general, sort of things, or a series of true crimes. But I think today, to start it off, I think I may as well start off with one of the most sick, fucked up things, murderers that there was, to be honest. I mean, Peter Sutcliffe, there ain't really much you can say about him apart from the fact that he was an absolute bastard. And we're going to get into it. And there is listener discretion on this because I will be talking about historical violent crimes, and there's forensic evidence, and there's also the police investigations that went on. So I will be describing some of the attacks as well. So just be aware that there is going to be some sensitive material. The sources I used on this one was I used obviously, of course, the Wikipedia, because there's that much of this you can pick up on this. Lancaster University case now, season 1, episode 7, part 1 to 5. And I also watched the 4-part Netflix documentary called The Ripper, which was pretty interesting. I had seen quite a lot of it before, but it was interesting. I listened to some podcasts as well, but to be honest, there's not that many podcasts actually out about this, to be honest. But the ones that I did listen to was True Crime All the Time and What Makes a Killer. So that was the podcast I listened to. But yeah, to be honest, there's not much. I mean, unless the big ones like your Red Handids and your I Could Talk About I Could Murder a Podcast, and your Morbids, and there's another one. I forgot what it's called now. But the big ones, you might be behind a Patreon, you might be on one of a paywall. So I'm not sure. But the ones that I found, the reason when you got like your Dahmers and your Dennis Nielsen's and your Gacy's and your Bundys, there's absolute shitloads of them. Absolute. It's just like boom, boom, boom. I think, if I remember right, I think the Bundy one, I'm sure there's like a 10-parter that someone's actually done on that. So I probably wouldn't be touching any of the big ones, to be honest, because there ain't really much I can add to them, because like all the big ones have done them. Your Red Handids, I Could Murder podcasts, your Bro Hoyos and that. They've done them, and I'm a nobody. So no one's going to listen to me talking about that when you can listen to the best of the best talking about it. So maybe in the pipe, maybe in the future, who knows? Or maybe I could do a collab with someone and we could do it then. But for the meantime, I'm not going to be touching them ones because I'm not going to make any difference. And literally, there's that many people that have done them ones. I'm just going to be lost in the algorithm and that thing, and I will be at the very, very snake's belly bottom of it. So. But the Yorkshire Ripper is different because, like I said, there's not that many people that have done the Yorkshire Ripper, which I find very interesting. So, but we're going to get into it in a minute. But as you can see, I'm back in my living room today because the conservatory, wow, it's hot in there. It's like a greenhouse. I mean, what's the time? It's 10 to 10 on a Monday night, and I couldn't even tell you. It's hotter in there than it's been hotter all day, and it's been hot all day. And there's also no way I could do that in there. It's just way too hot. So I've got the fan on, which is right there. My best friend, Frank the fan, and I thought I'd just do something doing it. It's just gonna be a lot easier. So there ain't no pictures or anything to go with today's episode. So it's just gonna be a case. It's just gonna be me talking and reading my notes and that what I've done. The Netflix 4-parter. I got to admit, he was good. He was decent. He was very good, to be honest. Actually, there was a lot of stuff on there I saw before, but he's just so mad how they could have caught him and saved so many people's lives in the day. It's all because of how shit the system was back in the day. It was all like on little cards, on like cue cards sort of thing, and it was just bad. It was really bad. But I'm going to get into that later anyway. But of course, I'm going to get into it after I've done the housekeeping, so I'll get the housekeeping out of the way. Like I said, get in touch with me on let's talk about pods@gmail.com, and we can have a chat on there. So never think him alone. You can always message me on there, and we'll always have a chat. Whether it's good stuff, whether it's about advice, whether it's just anything. Look, I'm always willing to have a chat with anyone, no matter who it is, no matter what it's about. Apart from religion, I don't do religion, or I don't do religion, and I don't do politics. So if it's them two, I'll have to say, I don't really know what you want me to say now, because I don't do religion and I don't do politics. If you want to get in touch with me on Instagram, it's let's_talk about pods. And like I said, I'm on TikTok, but I don't use it because I'm 48, not 18, and I don't know how to use it, to be honest. That was a minefield. That wasn't. I went on there. Ooh, that was a learning experience going on there. Crazy people on there. Proper. Ooh, that was yeah, that was an experience. But I am on there. I do go on there and I just post what this week's episode is going to be, and that's all that I do. I just leave it at that. I don't go on there and talk to people or try and get followers or so much traction. I know a lot of people do, and a lot of say it's very good. That's the best way of doing it, but I'd say I got the time. I just literally haven't got the time. So get in touch with me on them ones, and we can go from there. So if you want to leave me any episodes that you want to do, any people want to do a collaboration, anybody wants to come on the show, just get in touch with me on via Instagram, let's_talk about pods, or you can get in touch with me via the email at letstalkaboutpods@gmail.com. And that's just keeping it that way. Apart from the fact, my algorithm is really shit. Like I said, I am the snake's belly of podcasts, so it really does mean a lot, and I'm asking a big favour. Hit them 5 stars, leave a comment, and like and subscribe. It really does mean a lot to like I said, the podcast is me. I am the podcast. There's nobody else that helps. There's no one else that does anything. It's all me, and that's the reason why it's so basic, and that's the reason why it's so shit. But it is what it is. So, but yeah, we're gonna get onto the Yorkshire Ripper. He was. Did anybody? Like I said, I've not done any photos or anything for this one because I don't think the piece of shit warrants having me putting pictures of who the bastard is, and I'm not going to do it because he's. I don't like saying the word, but he's a see you next Tuesday. I don't like dropping the C-bomb, and I don't think I should drop the C-bomb anyway on this because in case he gets me kicked off or something, I'm not sure. So, but yeah, if you want to use that word, he is the perfect example of a see you next Tuesday. But like I said, I'm not going to warrant putting a picture of him because he's an absolute bastard and he's an absolute piece of shit, but we're going to get into it. So, like I said, there is going to be chats of like attacks and assaults on women. So just listener discretion is advised. Between October 1975 and November 1980, a 5-year reign of terror gripped the industrial heartland of northern England. Across West Yorkshire and Greater Manchester, 13 women were brutally murdered and at least 7 others survived horrific, life-altering assaults. The perpetrator was branded by the press as the Yorkshire Ripper. For half a decade, women in Leeds, Bradford, Halifax, Huddersfield and Manchester lived under an effective curfew. Public spaces emptied after dark. Fear transformed daily life into a series of calculated risks. So the time frame that we've got looking at here, it's from October 1975 to January 1981. I was 3 at the time. The areas that it affected the most was the West Yorkshire area and the Greater Manchester. There was over 130,000 police interviews conducted. 130,000. There was over 2 million, yes, I'll say that again, 2 million paper index cards compiled. So that's within a 5-year time frame. Like I said before, if you're looking about these cards, it's a little card. It's like a postcard, and they used to have them on. It's like little like a wheel sort of thing, and they used to put them into files. It was ridiculous. If you watch like shows like The Sweeney or The Professionals or Minder, some of them shows from like the 80s, or even like the American ones like Hill Street Blues or whatever old TV. I can't remember any of the old American TV cop shows. They used to have them on there, and you'd see them, and it's crazy. How the police solve crimes back in them days, I never know. I can understand the reason why this went so long. Crazy times. One another fucked up thing was 9 times Peter Sutcliffe was interviewed, and he was also eliminated at the same time. 9 times he got pulled in for interviews. There was some of them was driving offences, some of them was curb crawling, some of them was just little minor traffic incidents. And there's one very surreal incident that happened when he got pulled in, and I'll get into that later. I don't want to repeat myself, so I'll go into that later. Yeah, but 9 times he was brought in. So out of all them times, if he'd have been caught on the first one, you know, maybe all 13 women would have survived, maybe. But women would definitely have survived, and there was a lot more that would have been not attacked. I mean, they said 13 was murdered and there was 7 attempted, but the number's more than that. He killed more than 13 people, and he definitely attacked more than 7 women. But the numbers we'll never know. These are just the ones that are confirmed. Unconfirmed, there's probably shitloads more. There has to be. Peter William Sutcliffe was born on June the 2nd, 1946, in Bingley, a market town in the Metropolitan Borough of Bradford, West Yorkshire. He was the eldest of 6 children born to John and Kathleen Sutcliffe. By all outward appearances, the Sutcliffe family fit the working class profile of post-war Yorkshire. John Sutcliffe worked as a mill worker and a baker, known locally as a charismatic but volatile man. Kathleen Sutcliffe was quiet, deeply devout and attached to her eldest son. Sutcliffe was a quiet, reclusive boy. He suffered from night terrors and clung to his mother well into his adolescence. Night terrors, wet in the bed, straight away red flags of a serial killer. With serial killers, that is one of the common denominators that links a lot of serial killers together, is the bedwetting and night terrors. It's very, very common. Very, very common. At school, he was neither academically standout nor an overt disciplinary problem. He sat in the back of classrooms, largely invisible. Upon leaving school at the age of 15 in 1961, Sutcliffe drifted through menial jobs. He was an apprentice motor mechanic, he was a factory hand, he was a grave digger at Bingley Cemetery from 1964 to 1966. His tenure as a grave digger provided significant. Colleagues later recalled his unsettled dark humour regarding the dead, his collection of morbid oddities and an unusual comfort in cemeteries late at night. During this period, Sutcliffe claimed he heard voices talking to him from a headstone of an Italian man named Bronislaus. Let me break this down. Bronislaus Zapolsky, a claim that would later form the centrepiece of his court defence. Bronislaus. I've never heard that name in my entire life. In 1967, at a pub in Bradford, Sutcliffe met Sonia Suzerma, the daughter of a Ukrainian and Polish refugees. Sonia was intensely focused, studious, and undergoing treatment for psychiatric distress. That's a nice you pick out of. You pulled one there. They married on August 10th, 1974. By 1975, Sutcliffe secured employment as a heavy goods vehicle driver for Clark Transport, a job that provided him with legitimate reasons to travel across the northern England at all hours of night. In late 1969, Sutcliffe drove around Bradford's red light district with a friend, Trevor Birdsall. Sutcliffe exited the vehicle carrying a heavy... One day, Sutcliffe was in the passenger side of Trevor Birdsall's car. When he told him to pull over, Sutcliffe exited the vehicle carrying a heavy sock containing a stone or a metal object and struck a woman in the head. While the victim did not press charges and the incident went unrecorded by former police dockets, Birdsall was aware of Sutcliffe's sudden, unprovoked violence. He did this literally just one day. He was in the passenger seat of his car. He was driving down and he says to his mate, pull over. His mate goes, why? He goes, pull over. He pulled over. He got this sock, put this rock in, then walked over and just smacked this woman over the head for zero reason whatsoever. He didn't know the woman. She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Then just got back in the car and said, drive. It was just a complete random attack for no reason at all. The official narrative of the Yorkshire Ripper begins in October 1975 with the murder of Wilma McCann. However, criminological consensus and cold case reviews strongly indicate that Sutcliffe's violent trajectory began much earlier, masked by underreporting and police misclassification. So we had the 1969 in September. An unidentified woman in Bradford's red light stoning was injured in a stone in a sock area. So he's used the stone in the stone in a sock. Well, that's a mouthful, that is. Stone in a sock. He's used that technique again. In July 1975, Hannah Vroven Verlder Keeley. Wow, so look, that's a strange name. Let's try it again. That's a mark of respect. Anna Wenvelda Keeley. She was hit with a blunt object and she was assaulted. In 1975, in August, Gloria Wood in the Bradford Woods she was attacked with a blunt instrument that struck to the head. 1975, Siobhan Frayne in Halifax, again another blunt trauma to the head, but survived. In 1975, in August, so he did 2 in August in 1975, Marcella Claxton in Rounday Park, she was hit with a hammer and she was stabbed. So the reason why, if you think about the Ripper situation here, is because, like, for example, look at that one, 1975 in August, 1975 in August, he gets a kick from this, and if he doesn't fill his needs, he needs to go out and do something more so he can get that hit. So he's just a fucking bastard. Wilma McCann was a 28-year-old mother of 4 living on the Scott Hall estate in Leeds. She was known to be a vibrant but vulnerable woman who was struggling financially and occasionally engaged in sex work to support her young children. On the evening of Wednesday, October the 29th, 1975, Wilma went out drinking at several local pubs in the Chapeltown area of Leeds, including the Practical Club and the Top of the Town Club. In the early hours of Thursday, October the 30th, 1975, Wilma began looking for a ride home. Sutcliffe was driving through the red light area in his vehicle, targeting women walking late at night. He pulled over and offered her a lift, dropping her off near the Prince Philip playing fields, just a short walk from her home. As Wilma stepped onto the grass of the playing field, Sutcliffe followed her under the cover of darkness. He struck without warning. Sutcliffe walked behind her and he struck her with a ball pen hammer. The blow was delivered with enough force to penetrate the full thickness of her skull, rendering her immediately unconscious. So a ball pen hammer is, you have instead of having a hammer head with the claw at the back, this is a hammer head with a big massive ball on the back. It's used for like panel beating cars. That's what they normally use it for. It's normally like a mechanic's hammer. Pathologists determined that while she lay helpless on the ground, Sutcliffe pulled up her clothing to expose her torso, a sadistic pattern that became his main operational signature. He then used a sharp knife to inflict a fatal stab wound to her neck, followed by 14 deep knife wounds to her chest and abdomen. I mean, it's just overkill. Overkill. All the time with him. As you'll see, when you start going on to this, there's a lot of overkill. After the attack, Sutcliffe calmly got back into his car and drove home to his wife in Bingley. I mean, he does these attacks. Literally, does he? Gets in his car, drives home, walks to the door. Hi, honey, I'm home. This is just mental. Absolute mental. The following morning, Wilma's body was found lying on the cold grass by a milkman, just 150 yards from her home. On the Ripper documentary, it actually shows you like where it was found. Her house, like if you walk through her back gate, through a back garden, it opens a gate and it goes onto like a playing field. And it shows you, said the body was found here, and that's her house there. And like it's like I said, you can see the house. And when she was died, her head was facing her house. In a heartbreaking detail that highlighted the human cost of her crime, her eldest children, Sonia 7 and Richard 5, woke up to find their mother missing. Sensing something was wrong, they walked down the local bus stop to wait for her, unaware that police were securing the crime scene nearby. I mean, she left her children on her own. I mean, Sonia 7 and Richard 5, and there's two younger ones. But then again, it was a different time back then. That used to happen back in them days. The investigation was assigned to Detective Chief Superintendent Dennis Holborn of West Yorkshire Police. At the time, police treated the crime as an isolated incident. They failed to connect it to the non-fatal hammer attacks that had occurred earlier in 1975, such as the assault on Marcella Claxton, because investigators operated in silos and dismissed attacks on non-sex workers as related. A false lead. a witness report of a red Hillman Avenger driven by a West Indian man was seen nearby. This diverted vital investigative hours away from local suspect profiles. I struggled reading that for some reason. A witness report of a red Hillman Avenger driven by a West Indian man was seen nearby. This diverted vital investigative hours away from the local suspect profiles. That's better. That sounds a lot better, though. It was not until the subsequent murder of Emily Jackson in January 1976, which carried out with identical brutal precision, that West Yorkshire police officially recognised that they were hunting a single recurring serial killer. The murder of Emily Jackson on January the 20th, 1976 was a catastrophic escalation in Peter Sutcliffe's violent campaign. While Wilma McCann's murder 3 months earlier was treated largely as an isolated homicide, Emily Jackson's murder produced undeniable forensic proof that a single methodical serial killer was operating in West Yorkshire. Emily Jackson was a 42-year-old mother of 3 from Morley near Leeds. Facing crippling family financial hardship, including severe debts and an unpaid mortgage, she and her husband, Sydney, mutually agreed that she would temporarily engage in sex work to raise money. On the evening of Tuesday, January the 20th, 1976, Sydney drove Emily to the Chapeltown area of Leeds in their family van. He dropped her off near the Gatey pub on Roundhay Road and waited nearby, acting as a lookout. Around 7 p.m, Sutcliffe pulled up in his vehicle and picked up Jackson. Sutcliffe drove Jackson approximately half a mile to an isolated derelict site off Roundhay Vale, a dark, quiet cul-de-sac. Once parked, Sutcliffe got out of the car on the pretext of needing to use the bathroom. He retrieved his heavy ball pen hammer from the boot, opened the passenger door and struck Jackson twice across the back of her head, rendering her instantly unconscious. He then pulled the body from the vehicle onto the muddy ground. Sutcliffe used a sharpened screwdriver to inflict 52 stab wounds to her chest, abdomen and back. 52? Fucking hell. The attack was vastly more violent than McCann's murder, demonstrating a rapid escalation in his physical aggression. His physical aggression is a scrawny little fucking runt of a bloke. He wasn't even a big bloke. He was a little fucking rat. I'm starting to get wound up now talking about it, but he wasn't a big intimidating bloke. He was probably about 5'6", little fucking scrawny runt, fucking rat. In his frenzy, Sutcliffe stepped heavily onto her thigh, leaving a clear footprint impression from his shoe. Her body was discovered early the following morning by a workman on a derelict site. When West Yorkshire police pathologists examined Emily Jackson's body at the scene alongside senior detectives, notably Detective Senior Superintendent Dennis Holborn, the operational similarities to Wilma McCann's crime scene were undeniable. So we've got a little bit of you can compare the two here. So we had Wilma McCann, which was October 75. She was bludgeoned from behind with a hammer. The victim was unconscious on the ground, the torso deliberately exposed, and multiple stab wounds to the abdomen. Emily Jackson, bludgeoned from behind with a hammer. Victim was unconscious on the ground, the torso deliberately exposed. 52 stab wounds to the stomach and the abdomen. Very, very, very similar. It's a very, very, what they call the modus operandi, the MO. So this is what started people realising we've got a serial killer here. We've got two deaths within 6 months of each other, and it's exactly the same thing that's happened. In both cases, the attacker used a heavy rounded hammer to crush the back of the skull while the victim was facing away, ensuring zero opportunity for self-defense or screaming. So he always attacked him from behind, or literally, like the one, Emily Jackson, she's sitting in the car, and he just opens the door and goes bang, bang, bang. She doesn't even know. He even got the balls to attack him from the face and fight him. Fucking rat. In both murders, the body was left in the dark, outdoor location near Leeds red light districts, with the clothing pulled up to expose the abdomen. Both scenes showed gratuitous post-incapitation stabbing to the central torso. Following the post-mortem results for Jackson, DCS Dennis Holborn made a historic press statement. For the first time, police publicly acknowledged that a serial killer was on the loose in Leeds. Holborn formally linked the McCann and Jackson homicides into a single unified investigation, establishing the specialised incident room that would eventually evolve into the massive 5-year Ripper task force based at Millgarth Police Station. By mid-1975, Sutcliffe had refined his methodology. His tool section was a ball pen hammers, screwdrivers, sharpened screwdrivers and heavy industrial blades. Tools readily available in his garage or his lorry cabin. Because he was a long HGV driver, you have the cabs at the back. Sometimes you used to sleep in. Also, when you have these sort of tabs, you do keep a lot of tools. You know, we have some of these at my work, and when you open the toolbox, there's screwdrivers, there's wrenches, there's adjustable spanners, there's a lot of tools in there that they do use and they do need. So he's got them at his hand anytime that he wants them. He targeted women walking alone at night, especially women that was in isolated spots, footpaths or near industrial estates. His primary strike was a crushing strike to the back of the skull with a hammer to render the victim instantly unconscious, followed by secondary bludgeoning or stabbing. So if you're going to knock a woman out and because you're meeting her from the back with a hammer, I mean, if he's going straight the way through the skull and he's rendering them unconscious immediately, that is some serious force is hitting that. I mean, everybody knows what it's like to eat your finger with a hammer when you're hammering a nail. So you think about it. You're hammering a nail, bump, bump, and you miss and you hit your hand. You know, that bit of the knuckle there where you hit? Everyone knows that is painful. Or like, you know, you put a nail in like that, bump, and you hit the tip of your finger there. I'll do that quite regular at work. I do quite regular at work, to be honest. And it's painful. It's very painful. So you think you've got that coming in there. The only thing I can think of is he's smacking them on the head that hard they don't even know it's happened. They don't even know it's happened. It's bang. The 1 minute they're walking, they don't remember anything else. That's the only thing. That's the only thing I can say about it is I don't think they know what was going on. I think literally there was that basically that hit on the head. Although that wasn't the actual thing that killed him, it more or less did. On May the 9th, 1976, Marcella Claxton was walking home from a party in the Roundhay area of Leeds. Sutcliffe offered her a lift, then struck her from behind with a hammer in Roundhay Park. Claxton survived the attack and provided police with an accurate description of her attacker, including his facial hair, gap-toothed appearance and voice. However, because Claxton was not a sex worker, senior investigators treated her account as an unrelated to the emerging pattern, discarding a vital witness statement early in the investigation. So that's just bad police work. Police back in that day in the 70s, they looked at prostitutes completely different to how they look at them now. Same as like they looked at gay people and lesbians back in the day. It was so taboo. You know, it was just something that you didn't talk about. And if they saw like sex workers or anything like that, there's like, you know, fuck them. Anything happens to them, fuck them. They deserve it. That's the way they treated them. They treated them like, oh, it's a woman out there she's struggling and she needs to make the money. You know, they just thought, fuck them. They deserve it. And there was like the lowest of the low. That's the way the police looked at them back in them days, because it was a completely different era back in them days. It really was. The murder of Jane MacDonald on June the 26th, 1977, was the catastrophic watershed moment of the Yorkshire Ripper investigation. Prior to her death, police and the press had operated under a narrow, deeply flawed framework, portraying the killer as a man targeting a specific subculture of society, i.e. prostitutes. When a 16-year-old schoolgirl with no connection to sex work was murdered on her way home, the narrative shattered overnight, sending shockwaves across the United Kingdom. Jane MacDonald was a 16-year-old shop assistant living in the Chapeltown area of Leeds. On Saturday, June the 25th, 1977, she went out with friends to a youth club and later visited a local pub. Having missed her bus home, she began walking through Chapeltown in the early hours of Sunday morning, June the 26th. Sutcliffe was cruising the area in his vehicle looking for targets. He spotted Jane walking along Reginald Street. Sutcliffe stalked Jane as she passed a playground. He struck her from behind with his ball-pen hammer, fracturing her skull. As she fell to the ground, he dragged her onto a patch of waste ground and inflicted fatal stab wounds to her chest and abdomen using a long knife. Her body was discovered later that morning by children playing near the site. I mean, fucking hell, children, father. I mean, wow, that's bad, especially for the kids that found her. I mean, they've got to live with that. Up until June 1977, four women, Wilma McCann, Emily Jackson, Irene Richardson and Patricia Atkinson, had been murdered. Because all four engaged in sex work or were attacked near red light districts, the press and police had framed the killer's motives through a narrow lens. Jane McDonald's murder forced the public to realise no woman was safe. So what the police force did then, what we need to do is we need to put a curfew. So across northern England, particularly in West Yorkshire, women stopped going out alone at night. Streets in Leeds, Bradford and Halifax emptied after dusk. But they actually got told, they actually said to people, don't walk on your own. The police did. Don't walk on your own. Make sure you're always accompanied. Don't speak to anyone in cars or in strangers that you don't know. And make sure you're home before a certain time. I can't remember what the time was, but I don't think they actually get a time. But I think what happened was they just turned around. He was like to make sure before it's dark or before it's 10 o'clock or something. So it was like kind of one of them. The murder catalysed the UK's modern feminist counter movements. Women protested against police advice that urged them to stay indoors, pointing out that women were effectively being put under house arrest while the killer walked free. Got a point, but at the end of the day, it's a bit different. It's like the policeman saying, look, be safe, sort of thing. So I can see both sides of the coin on that one. The case moved from local crime reporting to dominant front page news across national newspapers. The tabloid press coined and solidified the name the Yorkshire Ripper, drawing centralised parallels to Jack the Ripper. I can see why. It's just the massive overkill on the bodies. For literally zero. None of the bodies are linked, and it's just complete overkill. The murder of Jane McDonald altered police operations, both for the worse in terms of rhetoric and for the larger scale of the hunt. At a press conference following the murder, Assistant Chief Constable George Oldfield made a statement that ignited intense public fury and highlighted the misogynistic undercurrents of the 1970s police force. He declared that the killer had now struck down an innocent girl, implying that the previous four victims were somehow less deserving of protection or justice, which is what I mentioned earlier, saying like police look down on prostitutes, but not other normal women, which is wrong. Well, we know it's wrong now, but back then it was a different time. The moral division alienated communities and clouded how detectives viewed victim profiles. Jane's murder forced Home Office intervention. The West Yorkshire Police expanded the incident unit at Millgarth Police Station into an unprecedented nationwide operation. Officers began logging hundreds of thousands of vehicle registration numbers, citing cards and suspect profiles. Police established roadblocks across the West Yorkshire every weekend, stopping thousands of drivers, including Peter Sutcliffe. He was stopped and questioned multiple times while driving through red light areas late at night. Command of the case was consolidated under George Oldfield, whose centralised control ultimately led to the fatal tunnel vision regarding the Wearside Jack hoax letters 2 years later. So basically, George Oldfield fucked it all up. He was a bit of a control freak and he fucked everything up. Jane McDonald's death apparently erased a lingering illusion that the killer operated under a self-contained geographic or social boundary, making it clear that a predator was stalking the entirety of northern England. Between October 1975 and November 1980, Sutcliffe killed 13 women. The mechanical regularity of his attacks revealed a distinct lethal routine. So, I have a name of all the people who died, and I'll read them out later. Like I said, I'm going to try and do as much justice for them as I can as I read it out. The murder of Jean Bernadette Jordan in October 1977 stands out as one of the most significant and chilling chapters in the entire Yorkshire Ripper investigation. Unlike his previous attacks, which took place across West Yorkshire, Sutcliffe crossed police jurisdiction into Greater Manchester. Crucially, this incident saw Sutcliffe make a grave error, giving the victim a traceable banknote, which forced him to return to the crime scene days later and led directly to his first near miss with investigators. Jean Jordan was a 20-year-old mother of two living in Moss Side, Manchester, originating from Scotland. She had fallen into poverty and engaged in sex work to support her children. On the evening of Saturday, October the 1st, 1977, Jean was working in the red light district of Moss Side. Sutcliffe, driving his red Ford Corsair lorry car, picked her up. He drove her to a secluded area of wasteground near Chorlton Meadows, adjacent to the Princess Parkway allotment site in southern Manchester. Once at the overgrown site, Sutcliffe struck Jean from behind with his ball-pen hammer. After rendering her unconscious, he dragged her body behind a small brick allotment building, stripped part of her clothing and inflicted brutal knife wounds to her body. Before leaving the scene, however, Sutcliffe realised he had made a tactical mistake. Prior to attacking her, he handed her a crisp, uncirculated £5 banknote as a payment. After killing her, he was unable to find the note in the dark because she had slipped into a hidden inner compartment of her handbag. Panicking that the pristine banknote could be traced back to his recent wage packet or bank withdrawal, Sutcliffe fled, fucking idiot, but remained obsessed with retrieving it. So he's made one big massive fuck up here. So he's paid in advance. She's put in a bag, but obviously he's fell down the bag, and now he's like, oh fuck, now what do I do? So now he's proper shitting himself now. He's thinking, fuck me, I've made a big mistake. Driven by extreme paranoia that the £5 note would ruin him, Sutcliffe took the extraordinary risk of returning to the scene of the crime days later. On Saturday, October the 8th, a full week after the murder, Sutcliffe drove back from Bingley to Manchester in broad daylight. He trekked out onto the scrubland to search Jean's body and belongings. Unable to locate the £5 note, even after turning the body over and searching her clothes again, Sutcliffe flew into a rage. In frustration, he took a broken glass bottle and an old hacksaw blade he found lying nearby and further mutilated the body, attempting to sever her head to obscure the hammer wounds or delay identification. Fucking hell. I mean, where do you go on that? Where do you go on? I mean, she's already dead. He's already done, the worst thing, and then he goes over and does that to the body afterwards and tries to chop off her head and stabs with a broken fucking bottle. He also dragged their body several yards into a slightly different position into the tall grass before abandoning the site for good. On October the 9th, that the next day it was already, On October the 9th, 1977, Jean Jordan's body was discovered by a local resident walking his dog. When Greater Manchester Police forensic teams meticulously searched the handbag, they discovered the concealed £5 note and a specific serial number, Alpha 018636644. Detective Chief Inspector Dick Holland of West Yorkshire Police joined forces with Manchester detectives to trace the note. Bank of England records confirmed the note was part of a brand new batch delivered to Midland Bank branches in Shipley and Bingley. Police narrowed down the distribution of the wage package to several local firms, including Clark Transport, where Sutcliffe worked as a HGV driver. Detectives interviewed 5,740 workers who could have received notes from that batch. Sutcliffe, again, was interviewed at his home in Bingley by officers checking the £5 note list. He admitted he was familiar with Manchester and had received wages from that batch, but provided a plausible alibi that he was at the family party on the night in question. Because the paper-based card index system at Millgarth was already clogging under thousands and thousands of cards, his interview card was marked as checked and filed away. It was the second time Sutcliffe was interviewed and released during the investigation. Why was the Jean Jordan case a major turning point? The Jean Jordan incident stands out as a crucial nexus of the entire Ripper saga for three main reasons. One, the geographic expansion. It proves that the killer was mobile and operating well beyond the borders of West Yorkshire, utilising the M62 and local motorway networks as an HGV driver. 2. Behavioural escalation. Returning to a murder scene a week later demonstrated Sutcliffe's high level of audacity and desperation, as well as the risks he was willing to take to protect his identity. The ultimate missed opportunity. The £5 note gave police the exact geographical hub of the killer and a limited pool of company employees. Had the police paper index system been cross-referenced with vehicle logs and previous suspect interview sheets, Sutcliffe would have been caught 3 years before his eventual arrest in Sheffield. They had him numerous times they had him. I still haven't got to the main one, which I was going to talk about, but I know it's on here somewhere, so I'm not going to repeat it. But like I said, so they could have had him 3 years before he actually was arrested and charged, and that would have easily saved what 10 people's lives. But because the police was just it was the police system more than anything. You can't exactly blame. Well, you could blame the police, but they was only dealing with what they knew at the time, because obviously the internet were around and computers wasn't around. So their system they had, it was a very, very flawed system. But one other thing that completely fucked everything up on this case was the Wearside Jack hoax in 1979. This was a big fucking massive fuck up. This was big time. And if you watch the Ripper documentary on Netflix, they go into this a lot. The Wearside Jack hoax was widely recognised as one of the most catastrophic investigative misdirections in modern criminal history. Between 1978 and 1979, an anonymous hoaxer sent 3 letters and an audio tape to senior police officials claiming to be the Yorkshire Ripper. The leadership of the West Yorkshire Police Task Force became so thoroughly convinced of the authenticity of these communications that they reshaped the entire multi-million-pound manhunt around them. As a direct result, Peter Sutcliffe, who spoke of a soft West Yorkshire accent, was repeatedly cleared of deprioritised by interviewing officers, leaving him free to murder 3 more women before his arrest. So he's arrested again after this, and when he was arrested, but because he wasn't, the bloke's from Sunderland, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I'm listening to next my notes. He was from Sunderland, so he had a very up north, so it's like kind of like a Geordie kind of accent. I know Sunderland and Geordie are the rivals and the opposites, but like if you want, I can't say, oh, that's a Sunderland accent, but if you say, oh, you know what a Geordie accent like, people know what a Geordie accent's like. Sunderland accents are very, very similar. In March 1978 and March 1979, 3 handwritten letters postmarked from Sunderland in North East England were delivered to Detective Chief Superintendent George Oldfield, head of the Ripper Task Force, and the Daily Mirror newspaper. The writer claimed responsibility for the murders, taunted the police, and claimed inside knowledge of the crime scenes. On June the 17th, 1979, a cassette tape arrived at Millgarth Police Station addressed personally to George Oldfield. When played, a calm, eerie voice with a heavy Wearside/Sunderland accent spoke over the background music of the folk song "Thank You for the Days." I'm not going to do the accent, but I'm going to read what it says. Lord, it's a long time since I left you alone, with the last one being in March last year. I'm Jack. I see you are having no luck catching me. I have the greatest respect for you, George. But Lord, you are no nearer catching me now than you was 4 years ago. The recording ended with a chilling threat to strike again in the autumn. Detective Chief Constable George Oldfield was under immense pressure from the Home Office, the press and the public. Exhausted and suffering from falling health, he fell victim to severe confirmation bias due to 2 main factors. 1. The crime scene details. The letters mentioned the 1975 murder of Joan Harrison in Preston, a crime that had not previously been linked publicly to the Ripper. The writer knew details about the crime scene that Oldfield believed only the killer or police could know. In reality, the hoaxer had pieced details together from local newspaper reports and rumours. 2. Forensic miscalculation. Forensic analysis at the time incorrectly suggested that Joan Harrison's killer shared a rare secretor blood group match with bodily fluid evidence found at other Ripper scenes. Oldfield concluded beyond any doubt that the Sunderland writer was the killer. Despite explicit warnings from voice experts and forensic linguists who warned that the tapes was a malicious prank, Oldfield held a massive press conference on June 26, 1979, playing the tape on national television and asking the public to help identify the voice. Once West Yorkshire Police committed to the Sunderland connection, the entire architecture of the investigation was altered, creating a fatal blind spot. Police officers conducting door-to-door inquiries, checking lorry drivers and interviewing suspects across Northern England were given strict instructions: listen for a Sunderland accent. If a suspect did not speak with a Wearside accent, officers recorded them as a low priority or cleared them altogether. When officers interviewed again Peter Sutcliffe, at his home in Bingley, they noted his West Yorkshire / Bradford accent. Because he sounded nothing like the man on the tape, he was checked off again, and once again removed from the active priority list, even though his car had been logged in red light districts dozens of times. Millions of pounds and hundreds of thousands of police hours were redirected to North East England. Roadblocks were set up around Sunderland. Over 40,000 men in Castletown area of Sunderland were voice tested and interviewed. Dialer tape hotlines were set up, receiving millions of calls from members of the public trying to match the voice. When the police searched Sunderland for a voice, Sutcliffe continued his attacks unimpeded. Between the release of the tape in June 79 and his eventual arrest in January 81, Sutcliffe struck 5 more times, killing 3 more women. Barbara Leach was attacked in Bradford in September 1979. She was a 20-year-old Bradford University student studying psychology. On the evening of September 1st, 1979, she spent the night drinking with friends at the Manville Arms pub on the Great Horton Road in Bradford. At around 1:15 a.m, she decided to walk the short distance back to her student lodgings on Back Street. Sutcliffe was driving through the Bradford looking for a target when he spotted Barbara walking alone down Great Horton Road. He parked his car, followed her on foot into the poorly lit back street and caught up with her as she reached the alleyway near her home. Sutcliffe struck her from behind with his ball-pen hammer, fracturing her skull and causing her to collapse onto the pavement. He dragged her unconscious body into a dark rear yard off St Paul's Road. There he partially stripped her clothes and stabbed her 8 times in the torso with a sharpened screwdriver. In an attempt to delay discovery, Sutcliffe covered her body with carpet remnants, old lino and bricks lining the road. Her body was found by police 3 days later on September the 5th after a room-by-room search of the area. The second one was Marguerite Walls in Leeds, 1980. She was a 47-year-old civil servant working at the Department of Health and Social Security in Leeds. On Wednesday, August 20th, 1980, she worked late at her office and began walking home to Farsley, a village between Leeds and Bradford, at around 10:30. Sutcliffe spotted Margaret walking along New Line in Farsley. He pulled his vehicle into a nearby driveway, got out, and followed her on foot under the cover of trees bordering a large residential property named Newlands. Sutcliffe crept up behind her and struck her across the head with his hammer. The blow did not immediately kill her, but rendered her helpless. Fearing her groans or movement might attract the attention of residents in nearby houses, Sutcliffe panicked and strangled her to death with his bare hands, a deviation from his usual method of extensive stabbing. So this time he's actually gone even more and he's actually used his hands to do it instead. He dragged her body over a garden wall into the grounds of Newlands and covered her entirely with grass clippings, fallen branches and garden waste. Her body was discovered by a gardener working on the estate on August 22nd, 2 days after her murder. And the third murder was Jacqueline Hill in Leeds, 1980. She was a 20-year-old English student at the University of Leeds. On the evening of Monday, November 17th, 1980, she attended a meeting for a student helpline service in Leeds city centre. She took a bus home to the Hall of Residence in Headingley, arriving at the Alma Road bus stop at around 9:15 p.m. The bus stop was only 100 yards from her accommodation, Lupton Flats, but the final stretch of the Alma Road was dark and lined with trees. Sutcliffe had stepped off his lorry and was patrolling the area on foot. He got off a bus at the same stop as Jacqueline, realised she was walking towards Lupton Flats and stalked her down Alma Road. Just yards from her residence driveway, Sutcliffe struck her from behind with his ball-pen hammer, cracking her skull. He dragged her unconscious body onto a dark patch of vacant ground behind a small wall. He inflicted horrific stabbing injuries to her chest and eye using a screwdriver and knife. Disturbed by the headlights of a car turning in the Alma Road or noises nearby, Sutcliffe fled the scene hastily without hiding the body. Her body was found the following morning by a passerby. So all these happened because of this fucking bastard called Wearside Jack. Some sick fucking freak. When Sutcliffe was arrested in Sheffield in January, he confessed. He was asked about the tape, and he admitted he had never been to Sunderland. He had never written the letters, and he had watched the police chase a ghost on television with complete astonishment. The identity of Wearside Jack remained a closed case for a quarter of a century till DNA technology caught up with him. In 2005, a DNA match was found. Cold case detectives extracted in a microscope traces of saliva from the dried gum under the postage stamp of one of the original 1979 hoax letters. The DNA matched John Samuel Humble, an unemployed former labourer from Castletown, Sunderland. In March 2006, 27 years after sending the tape, 50-year-old John Humble was sentenced to 4 years in prison for perverting the course of justice. He should have been done for assisting to murder, because at the end of the day, because of him, 3 women died because of him. So he should have been done for assisting murder or something, or manslaughter or something. Definitely should have got more than that, because at the end of the day, 3 women died and their blood is on his hands. The court noted that Humble's drunken hoax directly contributed to the loss of female lives by diverting police away from the Sutcliffe at the most critical juncture of the investigation, like I just said. Sutcliffe was well known for going back to his crimes and to witness the panic and police presence as if he got off seeing the chaos and pain he created. On several occasions, TV news crews filming press briefings or police sweeps captured background footage of crowds gathered near the tape. Historical review of the television and archival footage later identified Sutcliffe standing among onlookers, watching officers search the grounds. I mean, that's how bad he was. He used to get off on it. So he'd go back to the kill site and just stand there enjoying and taking in all the chaos, fear that he created. He even bragged once in prison about how he was brought in by police early on in his killing spree through some petty traffic violation, and while he was being interviewed by a police officer, behind the police officer's head that was interviewing him was a he-fit photo that had been made of him, and he was literally looking at it while he was giving his statement to the police officer. So literally the picture of him is behind the copper, and the copper never ever realised it. He never turned around and noticed it. At approximately 10:50 p.m, probationary police constable Robert Hydes and police sergeant Robert Ring were on a routine mobile patrol in Melbourne Avenue, near Light Trades Way in Sheffield. The area was a quiet, dimly lit industrial estate known locally as a red light district. The officers spotted a brown Rover 3500 saloon, parked in a dark driveway off the road. Inside were a man at the wheel, who initially gave his name as John Williams, and a passenger, Olivia Reevers, a local sex worker. When questioned, Sutcliffe claimed Reevers was his girlfriend. However, PC Hydes knew Reevers' identity, instantly making the story suspicious. A quick radio check on the Rover's registration plates really revealed that they were registered to a blue Skoda. On this basis, the officers decided to arrest both individuals for stolen licence plates. Before stepping into the police cruiser, Sutcliffe claimed that he was bursting for a piss and asked to step behind an oil storage tank a few yards away. Sergeant Ring allowed it, but heard a slight scuffle or metallic clatter as Sutcliffe walked back. When asked what that sound was, Sutcliffe calmly replied that he had stumbled on a small stone wall. Sutcliffe was brought into the Sheffield police station, where he was processed for false registration plates. While there, he asked to use the lavatory prior to being thoroughly searched, a request the officers granted unsupervised. On Saturday evening, January the 3rd, Sergeant Ring returned to work and learned that John Williams had been identified as Peter Sutcliffe. Ring knew West Yorkshire police had been looking for a man fitting that profile. Suddenly, the memory of Friday night's incident nagged at him. Sutcliffe stepping into the shadows near the oil tank and the odd clattering noise. Acting on pure gut instinct, Sergeant Ring drove back to the driveway at the Light Trades Way. Sweeping away fallen leaves beyond the oil tank, Ring discovered a ball pen hammer and a heavy knife. Realising Sutcliffe had hidden weapons at the arrest scene, Ring remembered the unsupervised bathroom visit at the station. Police searched the lavatory system and recovered a second wooden-handled knife. When the officers were questioned about their find, they both stood there proud, back straight, and said, "It was good old coppering. We had a hunch, and we followed it, like good coppers do. And you've seen what we have found. It's just down to good old coppering." When West Yorkshire Detective Inspector Pete Smith sat down across from Sutcliffe at Dewsbury Police Station on Sunday, the January the 4th, he laid the recovered weapons direct on the table. Smith looked at Sutcliffe and made it clear that his routine cover was entirely blown. "You're the Yorkshire Ripper, aren't you? We have your hammer. We have your knives. We have your blood group, because it matches the same as the others. Your main engine has failed." Realising the physical evidence linked him directly to the crime scenes beyond any doubt, Sutcliffe's calm composure crumbled. He slumped back, sighed, and Famous replied,
Yes, it's me. I'm the Ripper. My main engine has failed.
That's why his voice probably sounds like the fucking wanker. When police stripped Sutcliffe down for formal processing at Dewberry police station, they discovered his disturbing, custom-modified garment beneath his trousers. Sutcliffe was wearing a heavy, dark V-neck sweater upside down as an undergarment. Hang on, so the sweater's V-neck was positioned downwards over his groin, leaving an open gap exposing his genitals so he could commit sexual assaults without needing to remove his trousers. When I saw this, I tried to vision this in my head, and I still can't vision this in my head for some reason. I don't know why. The jumper is just a typical jumper with a big V-neck. I get that. I've got one upstairs, a black one, and a grey one. So I know what kind of jumper he's on about. But he's wearing it upside, so he stepped into it as where your arms are, then it's going to be, that's where his legs are. That's right. So it just don't make any sense. It don't make any sense. That when I read this, I was like, this don't make any sense. The sleeves of the sweater. I can't remember where I got this bit from. I think this might be from the wiki. The sleeves of the sweater were pulled down over his legs, and homemade padding had been stitched directly into his elbows and knees. Police experts later concluded this padding allowed him to kneel over his victims on cold, rough tarmac, concrete or wet grass for extended periods. The modified suit was one of the most chilling pieces of physical evidence presented during his trial, completely shattering the myth that his attacks were spontaneous or uncalculated. During his multi-day confession and subsequent psychiatric examination at the Old Bailey, Sutcliffe offered two primary excuses for a 5-year campaign of terror. 1. Sutcliffe claimed that while working as a gravedigger at Bingley Cemetery in 1967, he heard a divine voice emanating from one of the tombstones. An Italian man named, that's a stupid name again, what is it? Bronislaus Zapolsky. He asserted that God had appointed him as a divine agent tasked with a mission to cleanse the streets by killing female sex workers. That's all the bullshit, because he was just killing anyone. He wasn't killing sex workers, he was killing anyone. His legal team used his claim to argue for a plea of diminished responsibility based on paranoid schizophrenia. The prosecution, led by Sir Michael Havers, effectively dismantled this excuse by highlighting his meticulous planning, the deliberate modification of his clothes, his lies during the police interviews, and the fact that many of his victims, such as 16-year-old Jane McDonald and student Jacqueline Hill, were not sex workers. The jury rejected his defence, finding him fully sane, conscious, and motivated by his sexual sadism. They say it's sexual sadism, but he never had sex with any of them. He never. Sometimes you have them like they have sex with them, or like they kill them and then they wank over them, or they touch them when they're naked and stuff like that. But he never did none of that. Literally, he just killed them. So I don't know about the sexual sadism one. I don't know on that one. Like, there wasn't no sexual assaults made. Under intense cross-examination, Sutcliffe admitted to secondary motives rooted in hatred and obsession. He admitted to a grudge originating from a 1969 incident where he felt he had been scammed out of money by a sex worker and a pimp in Bradford. Forensic psychologists later characterised Sutcliffe's true motive not as divine mission, but as extreme sexual sadism. He derived power and gratification from the control, bludgeoning, and post-mortem mutilation of helpless victims. In later years, rising from prison, Sutcliffe briefly dropped his complex religious justifications, writing simply, "Yes, I did some bad things." A hollow acknowledgement of a legacy that terrorised Northern England for half a decade. The trial of Peter Sutcliffe, known as the Yorkshire Ripper, opened at the Central Criminal Court, aka the Old Bailey, in London on May the 5th, 1981, presided over by Mr. Justice Sir Leslie Boreham. The court proceedings became a historic battle between mental diagnosis and criminal responsibility. Before the jury was called, a rare conflict emerged between the judge and the prosecution. Sutcliffe pleaded not guilty to 13 counts of murder, but guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. He also pleaded guilty to 7 counts of attempted murder. The Attorney General, Sir Michael Havers QC, leading the prosecution, expressed a willingness to accept Sutcliffe's guilty pleas for manslaughter. 4 independent psychiatrists, including state and prison doctors, had evaluated Sutcliffe and concluded he was suffering from paranoid schizophrenia. Mr. Justice Boreham refused to accept the plea deal. He noted that the doctor's diagnosis relied heavily on what Sutcliffe had told them weeks after his arrest, which contradicted his initial detailed police confessions. Judge Boreham insisted that the issue of whether Sutcliffe was insane or simply a calculated murderer must be tested publicly before a jury. Because the judge rejected the plea, Attorney General Michael Havers was placed in the unusual position of having to prosecute Sutcliffe for full murder and cross-examination of all the psychiatrists whose medical conclusions had previously been willing to accept. When Sutcliffe took the witness stand, he laid out his primary defence, the claim of divine motivation and auditory hallucinations. Sutcliffe testified that his mission began in 1967 while his work as a gravedigger. He went on to tell the court that he heard a voice from a Polish man. He claimed the voice told him that it was the voice, "I am the voice of God, and you must eradicate sex workers from the streets." He told him that his 5-year campaign was being directed from God and told him to strike and confirm that his actions was justified. Under questioning, Sutcliffe insisted he felt no hatred toward individual victims, describing himself as a reluctant tool fulfilling a higher purpose. He claimed that after each attack he experienced a temporary sense of relief, believing it was completely a divine order. So basically he's saying after he killed him he shot his bolt. That was how he got it. That was how he shot his load. That must have been what he meant by that. Attorney General Michael Havers subjected Sutcliffe's claims to intense scrutiny, pointing out massive inconsistencies in his story. Havers pointed out that during his 4 days of detailed confessions at Dewsbury Police Station, Sutcliffe never once mentioned divine voices, God, or the tombstone. He only began mentioning voices after weeks in custody following discussions with medical staff. The prosecution highlighted how Sutcliffe took steps to avoid capture, wearing fake licence plates, hiding tools behind an oil tank when stopped by police, lying to investigators during 9 separate interviews, and tracked police efforts in his news returning to crime scene. Havers argued that a man driven purely by unyielding divine command would not exhibit self-calculated, self-preserving behaviour. The prosecution emphasised that several of Sutcliffe's victims were not sex workers, breaking the pattern of his alleged divine instructions. Well, he said himself, his words was to get rid of sex workers. When I think at one point he called them whores as well. When he was just killing anyone. After a 15-day trial, Mr. Justice Boreham summed up the case and sent the jury of 6 men and 6 women to deliberate. On May the 22nd, 1981, after deliberating for nearly 6 hours, the jury returned its verdict: guilty on all 13 counts of murder by a 10-2 majority verdict. Attempted murder, guilty on all 7 counts. The jury rejected the defence's argument of diminished responsibility, deciding that Sutcliffe was aware of his actions and held full criminal responsibility for the killings. Addressing Peter Sutcliffe in the dock, Mr. Justice Boreham delivered a stern address before passing sentence. Peter William Sutcliffe, the jury have found you guilty of 13 charges of murder and 7 charges of attempted murder, and I may say so, murder of a very cowardly quality. It's difficult to find words that are adequate, in my judgment, to describe the brutality and the gravity of these offences, and I say at once I am not going to pause to seek those words. I am prepared to let the catalogue of your crimes speak for itself. He should have turned around and said, "Speak for itself, you bastard." Should have threw that in at the end. The judge emphasised the widespread fear Sutcliffe had inflicted in North England. The terror you created in the north of England over a period of years is something that will not easily be forgotten. Mr. Justice Boreham sentenced Sutcliffe to 20 concurrent sentences to life imprisonment. The judge recommended that Sutcliffe serve a minimum term of 30 years before being considered for parole. The minimum recommendation was later reviewed by the High Court, which issued a whole life tariff, ensuring Sutcliffe would remain in prison for the rest of his life. Following his conviction at the Old Bailey on May 22nd, 81, Peter Sutcliffe spent nearly 4 decades inside the British penal and psychiatric systems. His time in custody was marked by intense isolation, continuous death threats, several violent assaults by other inmates, and a controversial 32-year stay at a high-security psychiatric hospital. So he started off, he was in HMP Parkhurst from 1981 to 1984. This immediately followed his conviction. He was dispatched to Parkhurst, a notorious high-security prison on the Isle of Wight. Because of his extreme notoriety and the nature of his crimes, Sutcliffe was kept under strict protection under Rule 43, segregation for his own safety. Inmates in high-security prisons frequently target child abusers and serial killers for vigilante reprisals. Even within segregated units, he was targeted almost immediately. In March 1983, while working in the prison workshop, Sutcliffe was attacked by fellow prisoner James Costello, a convicted murderer and former mercenary. Costello slashed Sutcliffe across the face with a broken coffee jar, recording 30 stitches to his head and face. While at Parkhurst, Sutcliffe's mental state deteriorated. He exhibited signs of acute paranoia, claiming that the voices were continuing to command him. In March 1984, after repeated psychiatric evaluations under the Mental Health Act of 1983, he was formally diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and transferred to a high-security facility. This one means that they're sent to Broadmoor, and he stayed there from 1994 to 2016. Sutcliffe spent 32 years at Broadmoor Hospital in Berkshire, a facility housing mentally disordered offenders. To avoid using his real name, he formally changed his surname to Coonan, his mother's maiden name. Unlike standard prison inmates, patients at Broadmoor had access to communal areas, grounds and therapeutic activities. Sutcliffe spent much of his time reading, making ceramics, listening to classical music and watching television. He also used to eat fucking loads of food. Apparently he was addicted to lobster and steak, and he put on loads and loads of weight. I think he went up to something like 22, 23 stone, because I said he was having 4 meals a day consisting of steak and lobster. Steak and fucking lobster. You know what I mean? I'm having a fucking crisp sandwich because I can't, money's tight. Bastards. Fucked up, I tell you. During the 1990s, Sutcliffe was regularly visited by members of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Here we go. He claimed to have undergone a religious conversion, expressed hollow statements of regret, and regularly wrote letters to pen pals across the world. How can you have a pen pal? How can that fucking wanker be a pen pal? But then again, he's changed his name. He's now Coonan instead of Sutcliffe. So that's probably why. The Jimmy Savile connection. Fucking wanker. As an official visitor and fundraiser of Broadmoor, who held keys to the high security wards, celebrity TV host Jimmy Savile visited Sutcliffe multiple times. Photographs later emerged showing Savile shaking hands and conversing with Sutcliffe in the hospital common rooms. There's a very famous photo and it shows you Jimmy Savile, Peter Sutcliffe and Frank Bruno. And when they questioned Bruno about it, Bruno didn't know who he was. He didn't know who Peter Sutcliffe was. And Jimmy Savile just said, "Oh, this is my friend." And that's all it was. And he didn't realise until later, when the photos released, who he was. Despite the high security psychiatric setting, Sutcliffe was targeted repeatedly by other prisoners. So his list of attacks was what? So of course you had 1990. So the first one was James Costello with a broken coffee jar and slashed his face with 30 stitches. In 1997, on March the 10th, inmate Ian DeChain lunged at Sutcliffe in a common area with a sharpened plastic cutlery knife. DeChain plugged the weapon into Sutcliffe's face, severing the optic nerve in his right eye and leaving him permanently blind on that side. Sutcliffe removed emergency surgery to prevent the loss of sight in his remaining eye. They should have fucking let him go blind. In 2007, in March, patient Patrick Surida rushed at Sutcliffe with a knife while screaming, "I'm going to kill you, you bastard." Sutcliffe managed to drop to the floor and staff intervened before serious injury was inflicted. In HMP Frankland, 2016-2020, Peter Sutcliffe was returned to the prison system. By the mid-2010s, medical assessments concluded that Sutcliffe's mental illness was stable and controlled through medication. Now he no longer required treatment in a high-security psychiatric hospital. Who would say psychiatric hospital? At the end of the day, he's like an hotel. In August 2016, a mental health tribunal ruled that he should be returned to the general prison estate. He was transferred to Frankland, Category A prison, Officers and the prison was also nicknamed Monster Mansion due to its population of high-profile killers. At Franklin, Sutcliffe was kept on secure wing. By his 70s, he suffered from severe physical ailments, including advanced type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and failing vision in his remaining left eye. In 2010, the High Court issued a formal whole-life tariff confirming that Sutcliffe would never be considered for parole and would die in prison. In late October 2020, Sutcliffe was diagnosed with COVID-19 after being treated at a university hospital in North Durham for cardiac issues. Having signed a directive refusing invasive medical treatment, Peter Sutcliffe died in the hospital on November 13, 2020, at the age of 74. No family members or visitors were present, bringing a final end to a custody record spanning 39 years, 5 months and 22 days. So there is a big massive link to Savile and Sutcliffe. Watcast actually did a podcast on this. He actually did a podcast on the link between them, because I'm sure it's mentioned on the Jimmy Savile documentary, the one where he does with Louis Theroux. I think it's mentioned in there as well. So I ain't even going to even mention who Jimmy Savile is. I'm not even going down that route. But Sutcliffe was his mate. Official inquiries conducted after Savile's death in 2011. It revealed that Savile exercised inappropriate authority at Broadmoor, using his public standing and charity fundraising work to secure unsupervised access to vulnerable patients and high-profile offenders. Photographs published in British newspapers documented Savile chatting and shaking hands with Sutcliffe inside the facility. The legacy of the Yorkshire Ripper investigation transformed British policing forever. The system failures of West Yorkshire Police Force directly catalysed the development of the Holmes. The West Yorkshire Force directly catalysed the development of the Holmes, Home Office Large Major Inquiry System. So it's Holmes as an acronym. This ensured that cross-indexing, witness management, and paper-free record keeping became mandatory standards for complex criminal investigations worldwide. So it's changed the police force. They've turned around now and gone, right, we need to make sure that we cross-index everything. And we need to make sure that we can't keep on doing it on these cards. We've got to do it through a computer. It has to be. You can keep the cards for speeding tickets and shit like that, but when it comes to a murder or a big crime, we've got to go on that computer, that PC. We've got to go on it. So, but let's go back to the Sutcliffe thing with Savile. You see this thing, Savile was just an absolute fucking dirty bastard, right? And they give him the keys to Broadmoor. You know, he had a management role, and he had his own set of keys at Broadmoor, so he could come and go as he pleased, whenever he wanted, and people knew this. And like I said, in Broadmoor, like I said, they called it, like, you know, it's full of absolute fucking fruitcakes, and he's there talking to them and befriending them. Now, there was rumours that apparently where Sutcliffe murdered people, and he left them literally like in the open, Savile knew about it, and Savile used to go around, and I reckon Savile, because he had a thing for dead bodies, and he was necrophilic. Well, rumoured necrophile. You know, there was links saying that Sutcliffe killed him because that's how he got off, and then Savile used to go over and do his bit. Now, this is not confirmed. This is just complete rumour. So, whether it did happen or whether it died, I won't put it past them both, because I'm both sick, twisted, absolute bastards. So I really wouldn't put it past them. But I reckon they knew each other before. That's the reason why when he got put to Broadmoor, they reckon Savile had a big deal in there as well and got him there so he could have a nice easy ride, because he knew if he stayed in jail, he would get killed. So he got his mate over there. That, like I said, that's one big massive rumour. If it's true or not, I'm not sure. But it does make a lot of sense. I think that's going to bring us to the end of this podcast now, and I think it's only fair that really, because I have spoken, there were some people that have been killed that I have not mentioned, so I think it's only fair, in memory, I'll mention all 13 victims. So we have Wilma McCann, Emily Jackson, Irene Richardson, Patricia Atkinson, Jane MacDonald, Jean Jordan, Yvonne Pearson, Helen Reutker, Vera Millward, Josephine Whitaker, Barbara Leach, Margaret Walls, and Jacqueline Hill. That's the 13 victims that was killed by Peter Sutcliffe. And I think it's only right that I should mention those names all in full. And that's going to bring us to the end of the episode today. So, I mean, what do you make of that? Let me know in the comments below what you think of that episode, and have you seen the Ripper documentary? The ITV did a program. What was the name of that program? It's going to bug me. There is ITV Yorkshire Ripper program. My missus watched it and I said it was really good. It was called The Long Shadow. It was released in September 23. It's my missus watched it and said it was really good. Said it was I know a lot of it was based on the woman who used to go around in like her husband's, like, it's like a Scooby-Doo mobile, and they used to park at a pub, and they used to be like just lie down on her back sort of thing. I know she's in it as well. So you got like David Morrissey's in it, Catherine Kelly's in it, Mark Stolbert plays Peter Sutcliffe. Yeah, so if you do want to watch a program about like a TV, like it's a 7-part series, The Long Shadow on ITV. To be on ITVX, that will. But yeah, so let me know in the comments what you think about Peter Sutcliffe and that. And you know, has anybody else ever heard of the Jimmy Savile and Peter Sutcliffe link? Like I said, if you do want to hear about that link, go on to Whatcast, is Spotify, and look it up. He's on there. Matt and CL do a good episode about it. Very interesting as well. Like I said, I'd never read that one before, that link before. And when they brought it up, they did bring in a lot of things that like that does make a lot of sense. So I'm not sure, but I really want to pass above, because if you're talking about you have the best of the best, then you have the worst of the worst. These are like them even worse than that. These are like the fucking the shit of the shit, lowest of the low, fucking horrible bastards of the bastards. That's them pair. I mean, they're even good enough for them. They're even worse than that, both of them, man. But yeah, that's the story of the Yorkshire Ripper. And it's just gone 11 o'clock, so I'm not even going to be even doing a Sunday roast on this one, because I think the story's a little bit worse than that. So let me know in the comments what you think of the episode. Let me know if there's any other serial killers that you want me to do. I don't want to do your, like I said, I don't want to do your Dahmers and your Gacy's and your Bundys and your Dennis Nielsen's, because everyone's done them, and I'm nobody in that, so no one will ever listen to them ones apart from me. And so I want to try and do some ones I'm a little bit, you know, not I wouldn't say popular, but you know, people know of but not really gone into, like, you know, sort of thing. So you know, like a Dorothea Puente, the housekeeper from Hell, who literally used to have people come to her house. It was like a bed sit sort of thing, and she used to kill him and bury him in the garden. She's a bad one, so I might do Dorothea Puente. Who else have you got? You got Scott Peterson, who killed his wife and unborn baby. She was 8 months pregnant with his baby, and he killed her. There's a documentary on Netflix about it. You know, fucking absolute bastards. Today, still says they do nothing. Absolute fucking wanker. And I mean, it was a good-looking woman as well, and he fucking killed her. You got the Ken and Barbie murders. His name is Paul DiBernardo. I think his name's Paul DiBernardo. That's a fucked up stuff. That's a fucking mental one, that one is. But not many people know about it. So I think there might be a documentary on Netflix or Prime or somewhere, or Discovery Plus. I'm sure I've seen one. I'm sure I have. So I might do that, like them ones. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the big hitters. I'm going to go into like the ones that, like I said, if it's got a documentary behind it, you can watch it even better. The Karen Reid's a good one. You know, where she run over a police officer husband, and she run him over, and she got away with it, even though everyone knows she did it. Yeah, that's another crazy one, that one is. But yeah, so I don't know what I'm going to be doing, what serial killer I'll be doing next, but it's not going to be Premier League serial killer, to be like one, maybe a championship level, that someone people know about but don't know too much about. So yeah, so that's this week's episode done. Thank you for listening, and like I said, please let me know in the comments what you think about the episode. Leave me some feedback. Hit the 5 stars. It really does help. Like I said, this is me. Let's Talk About Podcast is me, Neil Orange Peel, and it would mean a lot to tell me, say, good episode, Neil, or like, do whoever next sort of thing. So I think I might do 3 or 4 like true crime, like serial killer things, just so trying to get myself up the algorithm. But I have got the interview with Brad Thomas coming up soon. I have got the interview with my friend Rebecca Dawson, who's a big, massive horror buff. That's coming up soon. I have been contacted today by someone on Instagram, KG McGill, and she said she's interested in doing KG Missel. KG Missel. She's asked if the interested in doing like an interview. She's a paranormal investigator. Does a lot of paranormal stuff happen to her, and she's also an horror author. So definitely look into that. And thank you so much for contacting me. And we will definitely get into that. And I really want to do one with an American one. Because she mentioned that she's an American, North American, and I really do want to talk about literally talk to me about your books and talk to me about your experiences. By all means, I really am looking forward to that. And at the end, I'm going to we'll have a laugh, because my interviewing technique is, I'm not serious. I'm not a serious person. I like to have a laugh, and if you can have the banter and then bounce off each other, even better. I don't want an interview to feel like it's like, someone's there with a pen writing it down. I want you to be off the cuff and just go with the flow. So it's not an interview that they have all the time. So I want my interview to be a little bit different. And I want to try and see if I knows any of the good old English words, especially Black Country accent. Now, I'm going to throw this out to some of you, right? Whether you're American, whether you're from London, or whether you're from up north, or whether you're from down south, or from Wales. I'm going to throw a few Black Country words at you. I want to let me know in the comments if you know what these mean. If you're from the Black Country, or even if you're from Brum, even if you're from Birmingham, which is 40 minutes up the road from where I live, something like that. Even I used to work in Birmingham, and even they didn't even know what I was saying. There was like, you speak. We need a dictionary when you talk, because Brummies call Black Country people yam yams, and we call them Brummies. And the reason why they call us yam yams, because instead of saying here you are, we all go here yam. That's what we say. So I'm going to turn around and say this one. This is a simple one. I said to my missus just before I did the podcast, before I took Lottie to bed, and I said, first thing we're going to ask, we're going to say, this is an English word, and this is the way we say it, where I come from. I'm going to the shop to get some suck. So I'm going to say that again. I'm going to the shop to get some suck. Does anyone know what that means? And no, it's nothing to do with sex or getting a blowjob, before anyone even asks. It don't mean any of that. Right? So there's that one. Then we're going to go, it is another one. I'm absolutely bollocksed, I am. Absolutely bollocksed. What does that mean? Does anyone know what that means? What else have we got? What have we got? Oh, well done, my wench. You've done well today. Well done, my wench. That's another one. Does anyone know what that means? I was trying to get them off the top of my head now, so I'll have to write some of them down. So I'm just trying to get some off the top of my head. But just listen to my podcast, listen to the way I talk. My accent's proper Black Country anyway, and I'm Asian. And my accent's proper Black Country, and I even try and tone it down, to be honest. I'm trying to tone it down. That's how we say. Don't say down. We say down. I'm going down. I am. I'm going down the shop. It's so fucked up. The accent, the Black Country accent, is fucking awful. It's awful. Me and the missus went to go and watch Johnny Cole. He's a local comedian run by us, and he's very popular. Massive on TikTok and massive on Instagram. So if you're looking for Johnny Cole, look for a good comedian, Johnny Cole. Very, very, very funny bloke. He's got this song, No Woman, No Sky. Fucking hilarious. Really, really good. Really good sing. Really good comedian. And Yeah, he does it. And when he was listening to him, he was like, right, Bab, how you doing? I come from Wednesbury, I do. And my missus kicked me out my ass. Yes, kick me out my ass. Which means kick me out my ass. Kick me out my house. Here's another one. Going over the bonk to go and feed the oss. Does anyone know what that means? I'll say it again slowly. I'm going over the bonk to feed me oss. Yep. See if anyone knows what that means. So them are the two main ones. I'm going over the bonk to feed me oss, and I'm going down the shap to buy some suck. But anyone know what that means? Let me know in the comments if you know what that means. Let me know in the comments if you think, what the fuck am I talking about? And yes, where I come from, we have orange chips. Now, they're a delicacy, like, man. I know people, when I used to work in Brum, used to travel all the way down to where I live to get the chips because there was orange, because no one else does them. No one else does them. We're very, very, very well known around in the Black Country for having orange chips, which means basically the chips, they put in like the fish batter. So where they batter the fish, they put the chips in as well. So the fish and the chips and all that, they're more battered. So you get 2 heart attacks in one. So the chips give you an heart attack, and because they're battered, you get the heart attack twice. So that's how fucked up it is around here. Yeah, but that's another one. But she just literally just messaged me, so I'll see what she says in a minute. And but thank you so much for getting back to me, and I really am looking forward to that. What was her name? KG Missel. I really am looking forward to doing it. Hopefully we can sort that out soon, because I really am looking forward to that. Be interested as well, because like she said, she's got a lot of paranormal stories and that. And that's one thing I want to do in this. Like I've always said about this podcast, I wanted to make it like a community based. I want to make sure people know there's always someone out there that can talk to. I want to make sure people always know that there's always someone listening. And I'd love to make like one where people just phone in with the stories, whether them crazy holidays, whether them paranormal stories, whether them things that's happened when they've been off the tits on drugs or pissed up, or they've had crazy fucking first dates, or they've had a nutter boyfriend stroke girlfriend, and it's all gone fucking Pete Tong, or as we say around here, Peter Tosh. Yeah, that's another thing that we do. We don't say Pete Tong, we say Pete Tosh. I don't know why we just do. And just things like that, so they could just like listen to stories, but they've got to be funny, not serious ones. I don't want no serious ones. I know we don't need all that. Like life's enough stress as it is, but I've got loads of them. I literally, like I said, I wrote a book about all my stuff, and yeah, there's some right fucked up stories in there, I tell you, and all real, all true as well. And there I'm fucked up, but it's yeah, I'd like to do a listener episode, and basically like, especially towards Halloween. When it's towards Halloween, I'd love to get a listeners like ghost stories and paranormal stories. I really would like to do that. That'd be good, that would. Because when it comes to Halloween, I want to do a lot of horror stuff and a lot of Halloween ghost stuff and a lot of paranormal stuff. So I think October would be I'll just flood it with that sort of thing, really. So that's why there's quite a few ghost and paranormal things I'm holding back on, because I either want to do it with a collaborator and collaborate with someone and do it, or I want to leave it for the Halloween, because Halloween ain't that far away now if you think about it. We've just gone into August. It's 3rd of August today. So you've got September, October. So you've got like 2 months. So they're probably going to have like maybe 6, depending on what time I can do. I might get 6, 10 episodes out until then. Then as soon as we hit October, boom. Get scared, motherfuckers. Because we're going to get some scary shit going on. So, yeah, so that's the episode. So let me know in the topics what you think. I mean, does anybody else think? I mean, I'm from the Black Country, and I think the Black Country accent is probably the worst accent out there, to be honest. Scousers and off. I absolutely love Liverpool. I love it. I'm a Liverpool Football Club fan. I love Liverpool. Always have done. I've always been a Liverpool fan since day one, because my favourite players growing up when I was a kid used to be Ian Rush and Bruce Grobbelaar, because they had beautiful moustaches. Beautiful moustaches. Grobbelaar was absolutely off his fucking nuts, and Ian Rush used to score goals every week. And yeah, so I'm a massive Liverpool fan. I've been to Liverpool numerous times, and I absolutely fucking love it there. I'd go there every weekend if I could. Honestly, I absolutely love Liverpool. Cannot say a bad word about it, apart from the accent. There's a lot of phlegm flying around in Liverpool, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, so but I do think the Black Country accent. If when I hear us talking on the telly, all right, Bob, how you doing, Bob? I went down here, I went down there. Oh, God, it's terrible, terrible, terrible. But we're not Brummies. Black Country people are not Brummies. You'll go out somewhere and go, oh, you are from down Brummagem way, aren't you? Are you where part of Birmingham you're from? I'm not from fucking Birmingham. From the Black Country. You know, if you know the football team Wolves, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Yours. Do you know the team West Bromwich Albion? Yours. I'm in the middle. Right there. In the middle bit. That's where I'm from. In the middle. Yeah, so it's one of them. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know in your comments what you think about Peter Sutcliffe. Let me know if there's any serial killers you want me to do, or maybe even an unknown one. Actually, I have got a topic. I might throw in like as a random one. I've got to look it up. I've got to do some research into this one. It's it was my daughter's birthday party yesterday, and I spoke to the Mrs. niece's husband. He's a copper, and he was telling me about. He said a good episode you could do is there was a guy who was stranded at sea for 72 days on like one of them like little makeshift like orange like TP. It's like it looks like a orange like a TP like safety boat. In 72 days he was stuck out on there, and he ended up being drifted away because he got into like a what do they call it? Is it sail lane? Is it sailing lane where all the big massive cargo lane is? They got put into one of them, and he ended up 72 days. He was out on the sea on his own. So I looked that up because that seems, that story, it does ring a bell. That story does. I think I've motivated a podcast or seen it on telly. I think my program like I Should Not Be Alive or something like that, or I Should Not Be Here, or one of them sort of TV shows. So it does ring a bell. So I might look that up as well. I might throw that in just to break it down a bit from like the serial killer thing. Like I said, I have written my Batman episode, so that will come out soon. But I've got to do a lot of editing for that one, so I've got to throw in the film covers and stuff and everything. I ain't going to release that one until I've got it all edited, because I might have to record it, edit it, and then release it, which was going to take fucking ages, because I'm just learning this editing stuff, because now I am using Wearside for editing. I'm using a different editing software, and I've got to learn it all. And I'm 48. I don't need. Why have I got to learn how to do something now? I'm 48. You know, I'm learning something new. It's it's different. So I'm getting there. It's trial and error. No one's learning me. It's just you click on it and go right. So what does this, like Dexter's Laboratory? What does this button do? What does this button do? What does that button do? Oh fuck! It's all gone off. Oh bollocks! Start again. What does this button do? Oh great! Now the computer's gone off. Fuck it. So it's kind of one of them sort of things at the minute. But yeah. I'm just rambling on now. It's late. It's what time is it? 11:15. 11:15 on a Monday night. So, and I'll be up for work at 5. So yeah, it's a late night for me. So I'll let you leave it to it anyway. So thanks for listening, anyone who's listened, and good night, I suppose. Ta-da.